muy malo. Roto el paso de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa. Siempre negativa. Nunca positiva.
Hello, welcome to Siempre Positivo after Barcelona beat Real Betis 5-3 to open up a 4-point gap at the top of La Liga after Real Madrid were beaten 2-0 at home to Celta Vigo on Sunday. I'm Sam Marsden, joined by Rik Sharma. Rik, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I think you should probably announce that Tony is on this pod, even though he's not with us right now.
Yeah,
people are clamouring to hear his reaction to Ferran's masterpiece on the weekend.
How about you let me do your job, my job, and you do your job? What I was doing, I was teasing as if it was just me and you, and then I was going to say to everyone, don't be disappointed, so now I'll say it, alright? Oh, good to hear from you, Rik.
Okay.
So, those of you may be a little bit disappointed to hear that Tony is not here, because I know a lot of you were looking forward to hearing from him, and especially Rik, after Ferran Torres scored a hat-trick in that 5-3 win at Real Betis. But fear not, he is here. He did speak to Rik before me and Rik spoke. It's a little bit complicated today, Monday in Spain, because it's a national holiday, so it's hard to align all hours with people having family commitments, with schools out and different things happening. But Rik and Tony did tee up a time to get into the Shark. Roll the tape.
Hello, Tony. How's it going? Where are you?
Good morning. Good morning for almost everybody. I wanted to have a little bit of relaxed weekend. I went to close to the mountains in Catalonia in a small village where my parents were born. Less than 200 people there. Almost not good enough network. Foggy clouds. So relaxed weekend, but fortunately connected to enjoy one more brilliant performance of the Shark. So, good weekend, yes, for sure, good weekend.
You have to admit, there's a lot of honour in this, in me going out of my way to make sure you can be on this podcast and talk about the Shark.
I wrote it on the Discord. It's strange, no? That normally in the WhatsApp group you offer different timetables to record, but this time you are very busy to record the pod. So this is not really brave, hiding.
No. As usual, your holidays are putting the pod in a tough spot.
Yeah. Claro.
All right, let's talk Ferran. That's all we're here to do on this bit of the pod. The problem I have with this is the annoying thing about this is that he actually played well.
You don't start with apologize? No,
I can't apologize. I don't know what I'm supposed to be apologizing for. That's the problem.
No, because you have been mistreating him, lack of respect every day. Until I hope that there will be one point, and I hope that moment was already today when you realize that the conception, the profile of Ferran that you had on your head was a wrong one.
I mean, it's an interesting topic because I think the profile of Ferran that Barca had in their heads was also a wrong one. When they signed him, as a winger. They signed him as a player that was meant to be beating people on the wing, getting into the box, scoring goals. He's scoring goals now, but was wide player, or maybe a false nine. And actually, it's turned out the only position he can really play for Barca is almost as a true nine, just in the box.
Yeah, okay. It's true that he was signed as a winger, and quickly I saw that he didn't have enough dribbling, enough one against one to be winger. But as a number 9, you have been underrating him, and 27 goals in this 2025. Only Kane, Mbappe, and Haaland, they have more goals. The Spanish player with more goals in 2025. So I think that even if you are not in love with him, it's time for you to say, okay, I have to apologize. I have to understand that even if he's not a very spectacular guy, he's effective. He's performing, and numbers are speaking. For me, numbers are speaking.
Yeah, but look, Tony, this is the issue I have with this, the apology idea, is that I don't think at any point and I might be wrong. People can go and find it if I have been wrong. But I think I've frequently said he's a good backup player. He's a good player you want to have in your squad as a
But
substitute
backup is
coming on.
mistreating him. How can be the Spanish player with more goals in 2025 just a backup? This is mistreating. This is exactly what they say.
Because Spanish players,
We are not talking about Mark Yu.
Spain don't
We are
make good
talking.
strikers in the last decade.
No, but how can you call only backup someone with these numbers? I mean,
Okay, yeah.
the problem is
this
that
is
you still
true.
think that he's only in a good run, and it's not that he's in a good run. He's in another reality. This is a new reality, but you still think this is not the reality. It's just matter of okay, in 2 months he will be again the old Ferran. This is
No, no,
what
no,
you are
no.
waiting.
I don't think that. I do think that this could be how he is, but I think he's only capable of playing like this when he is not and doesn't think that he's a first choice starter. There's been periods where when Lewandowski's been out and he obviously scored a couple of goals right at the start of the season, but then for a period he was not very good playing as a striker. Where before Lewandowski came back, and as soon as Lewandowski comes back,
No, but this is not true.
he's got
This
the
is not
heat
true.
behind him.
No, okay. This you are saying this because this happened against Chelsea. Okay, but if you take a look, lots of games where he when he knew that he was the only option because Lewandowski was not there, he has scored more than a couple of goals. He has scored almost every week. I mean, I think that okay, yes, in Stamford Bridge. He didn't score that goal. And it's obvious that if you compare with top strikers, for me, there is a lack of quality that can be crucial in key moments. For sure, it could be crucial in key moments. I'm not saying he's top 5 in the world.
But
For
that's
me,
the other thing. The lack of quality. I'm not just talking about in key moments. I also have an issue with the lack of quality in every other moment of the game, apart from the one or two moments where he's got to put the ball in the net.
but at
Where
the end,
every
but
move
at
that
the
Barca
end,
make.
the work of a striker is putting the ball on the net. Tell me, what is the other work that you need to do? Only putting the ball on the net, not making good passes, not looking handsome, not having tattoos, not being
That's the main.
fast, short, tall, scoring goals.
It's the main job. I grant you that as a striker, it is the main job. But I think playing in a team that aspires to win the Champions League, you need to do more than just that, unless the team is built around you. Like in the case, I think a really good example of this. In fact, maybe not because Haaland's actually added more to his game than he used to have. But Erling Haaland is a good example of this because he's so good at scoring goals and he can score like a ridiculous amount of goals. Man City can afford to build their team around him, and he doesn't have to do that much of the other work or the other stuff. Although he actually has got a lot better at that. He's much better at hold up than he used to be. But I mean, like my issue with Ferran is I don't think he's a starter for Barca because he's just overall, despite his fantastic goal scoring this season, I just think he's not good enough overall to be a starter for Barca. And here's the thing: I have two things to say actually. One thing is what I was going to say right at the start before we got onto the sidetracked by the whole debate. One is the thing that I found a problem or difficult about this game was he actually played really well, apart from his goals. This was the unusual thing for me. Not that he scored a hat trick against Betis; he's actually done that before. But
But
he plays up front.
no, but it seems that the demanding line for Ferran is always higher than with others. Lewandowski, out of the box, he's also not really top player out
Not
of the
top,
box.
I agree.
Lewandowski.
Not top, but he's also got better at it. He's also, while he's been at Barca, he has improved.
Yes,
Hold up.
he's a little bit better, but at the end, a centre back has to win defensive duels. A winger has to provide assists. A defensive midfielder, has to recover balls. And a striker has to score goals. So if I'm a striker and I score a lot of goals, it's enough. If we don't win the Champions League, it's not because I only scored goals as a number 9. You should do more. No. Everybody has to bring his own responsibility. And with these numbers, how can we be still saying, no, he's not good, he's only backup?
Well, okay,
Come on.
because I find that personally, and maybe this is where later I can apologize to Ferran, because if he is as good as you say he is, then he will start at the World Cup for Spain and he will start the rest of the season for Barca. As the number 9.
Of course. And I'm going to ask you one question. If this guy was, his name was Ferraninho, and was playing for Nottingham Forest, we would be saying, "Wow, 70 million, top guy, smashing it."
He'll be the Brazilian with the least amount of ball control and ball skill since Douglas.
Yeah. But what I'm okay. I can understand that you say that you like that the number 9, apart from scoring goals, he has other things.
No. It's not even has other things. It does the other things he needs to do at an adequate level. And Ferran has struggled too much with that, with even just receiving the ball sometimes. His touch is so loose.
No, but at the end, the number 9 has only to score goals. Why Guardiola brought Haaland? Because this stupid thing of playing with a number 9, as Guardiola has admitted publicly, it's kind of a mistake. At the end, you need a number 9. You need a number 9 to score goals. And Guardiola has understood that he needs Haaland to score goals. So it's the same for Ferran. He's scoring goals. It's that easy like this. Numbers, performance. At the end, the big data is goals, assists, goals, performance, like in NBA, assists, rebounds. So I know that it's not all based on data. I know what you mean. He sometimes is not clinical when it comes to giving a pass, or I know he's not top quality. But what I want to tell you is that the lineup is kind of a mix of fruit. And in the mix of fruit, there can be pears, apples, banana. And the number 9 is fine if he only scores goals. And it's not doing, because the quality will be brought by Pedri, Lamine, and others. These are the players that they need to create the game. Create the game. And Ferran is a finisher, like ¿cómo es una fábrica en inglés?
A factory.
Like a factory, someone is doing the first step, click, click, click. The other is putting the smartphone in a box, click, click, click. The other one is putting the letter, the number of the product, click, click, click. So everybody has his own job.
Yeah, do you know what? And if he could stay in the factory printing the stickers that go on the boxes, whatever his job is in the factory, that would be great. But unfortunately, the way that Barca are playing isn't set up to play with just the striker who stands in the box and kicks the ball in the net and does nothing else. Maybe maybe they can set up around, not around Ferran, but around in a system which allows a player just to do that. But I think it's hard to when you have also Lamine Yamal on the wing, Rashford on the wing, who I mean, if you have one player who you give the complete freedom to, it probably is Lamine in this team and not to the striker.
Bueno, no sé. Yo lo único que sé is the numbers are speaking. This is the only thing I know. Hat-trick. People still making some laugh, still remembering what happened in Stamford Bridge, and it's true that probably the most needed day in the Champions League final. It's true that there is this 10% of quality that makes the difference. This I have never denied this. But one thing is saying this, that he's not Mbappe, Haaland, or Haaland or Kane, and the other thing is mistreating him like, no, okay, he's only a backup. Because this is more than a good run. But he's already the reality of the new Barça.
Did you hear Hansi Flick talking about him? And Hansi Flick said after the game, this is the kind of game he needs to put in to show that he can be in the team. And I think Flick kind of sees it in the same way as a hungry Ferran. A Ferran who's got something to prove, who sticks his fingers in his ears when he scores, who celebrates like so effusively after he scores because he's got to prove. He has to keep proving. He has to keep proving. For me, is Ferran at his best. It's not when he's just starting and he's the number one. And I mean, maybe we haven't seen enough of that, which maybe is a good thing also.
But because it seems that with him, it's never enough. Others, like Marc Bernal, which I say that I'm totally in love. I'm not criticizing him, but for example, Marc Bernal, he did a great precision. He made two brilliant games, or one, because his injured was on the second game or first game of La Liga, and then he has played again 20 minutes, very good, and already we say that Bernal has to be starter. So the demanding line with some people is very high.
Well, it's conditional with others, on the
25 minutes, it's enough.
Like Barca don't really have a holding midfielder per se. Pedri's been fantastic, but he's not a holding midfielder in typical sense. Frankie de Jong's been inconsistent.
Exactly for this reason. Don't you remember how we have been criticizing Robert because he's elderly, he's not performing? So people has been saying that Lewandowski was too old, with Xavi last season not doing nothing. Also last season saying, okay, he scored a lot, but he cannot run. So Lewandowski has been also with bad performances and people criticizing, and still he has like some credits that people is not giving to Ferran.
I remember last season when we were, I think all of us were arguing that maybe Barca looked better with Ferran up front in a false nine when they were scoring 5 against Mallorca in that period where Lewandowski was injured and Ferran was up front. And then he had the time and he didn't deliver with it.
Yeah. This is true. So that's what I'm telling you, that the demanding line with Ferran, it seems that it's never reality. It's always kind of luck or kind of unreal performance, or like that, like if it was something not related with his real level, because people still thinks he's that struggled, frustrated, blocked guy that he was 3 years ago. But if you take a look on his numbers with Valencia and Manchester City, you can see that the real Ferran is closer of what is showing now than the old Ferran in Barca.
Interesting. So your argument is that he should be the starting striker for Barcelona this season?
No, my only argument is that it's all about performing. So yes, with these numbers, he has to be the number 9 for sure. And then if he is the number 9 and he plays 2-3 shit games, it will be the moment of Robert Lewandowski. For me, it has to be about performing, about numbers. I don't mind if he touches only, because this is the same law. This is the same law that I said with Lewandowski. I don't mind if he only touches 2 balls in the whole game. But if these 2 balls, one is goal, for me, he can do this every game, because it will mean that I will start every game with 1-0 win with this goal. It's about performing.
Yeah. And I honestly think that our positions on Ferran, despite the comical way that you frame them, and I have to apologize to Ferran, are more or less similar in that, or like, for example, now I would start him against Eintracht Frankfurt in the week, because we talked about this on the last pod. We talked about this on the last pod, and we said, you were saying, I bet Ferran starts against Betis. So I was like, yeah, exactly. Play the reserves against Betis. Play Ferran, play Roony Bartaggi against Betis. But then probably you bring back the Lewandowski for Eintracht Frankfurt. But Ferran was so good against Betis, I think it makes total sense that he starts against Eintracht Frankfurt and Lewandowski's on the bench. So if there's anything to apologise about, it's that, I suppose, in that, yeah, I didn't expect he would have earned his start against Eintracht Frankfurt, and he did, and I think he should start against Eintracht.
I got an example. Imagine Samuel Marsden writing in ESPN. Imagine that he writes 5 articles every week that are shit, totally shit, these 5 articles. But then he writes a 6th article which smashes it in terms of clicks and engagement. Do you think that his boss will be happy? Yes, because his boss will analyze and will say, okay, these 5 articles are shit, but every week you are doing an article that is smashing it. This is the same with Ferran. I don't mind if he's bad with association, with some passes, but if at the end he scores 1 goal every game, the numbers are done. So forget about the other 5 articles that are shit. That's what I'm saying.
In your example, it kind of makes sense, but in reality, it doesn't work like that, in the sense that his form has been very good so far. I worry about, I don't know, I just worry about whether I don't think he's going to score a goal a game or close to that necessarily by the end of the season, but we'll see. I am interested in seeing him more up front as the number 9. That's what he's earned. I don't think he's earned anything other than that, more chances to use up front.
Well, en fin, our listeners have managed to have proved that the apologize that we were expecting has not arrived.
But that's the thing. There's been nothing to apologize for. It's not that he's played well and I've criticized him. If he's played well, like he did in this game, I've credited him with that. I'm gonna give you a spoiler on the ratings. I'm gonna do them with Sam later. But yeah, he gets a 10 out of 10. Perfect game from Ferran Torres.
No! Historical moment. Please, we have to make a clip and tag it and fix it in on the profile. Really, a 10? I'm going to cry. No, but how did you give him a 10? You had like kind of some beers and then you were drunk, no?
Do you know what? Even if he scored no goals in this game, I would have given him at least a 7 because his overall performance was just better than in other games. Every time he got the ball, he didn't give it away. I think he had one header that was saved, and apart from that, like more or less everything he did with the ball was fine. He didn't do anything wrong. That's the issue I have when I'm watching him and he does something grievously wrong that ends up with Barca losing possession and the other team attacking. I have trouble with that. In this game, he didn't do any of that, and he scored 3 goals. You can't ask for anything more than that. Perfect performance from Ferran Torres.
Yeah, no, but it's true that the style of Betis, like brave and with the spaces at their back, was especially done for Ferran because he loved these kind of games. Without spaces, for sure, he cannot show his best version. So the profile of Betis helped him a lot to show his best version. So now I don't remember, but I would say is the one and only time, the first time that Ferran is receiving 10 out of 10 in the ratings in the history of Siempre Positivo. Eh?
I think in the history of Siempre Positivo, I've only given about 4 or 5 players 10 out of 10. So Ferran joins a very select club.
Okay. So I have to be grateful to you, because he entered the Hall of Fame of Siempre Positivo.
Yeah.
Okay. Bueno, let's see now. Let's see. At the end, football is about your mood, about your self-confidence, and for sure, one thing is obvious. And this, I get closer to your point. To be starter of Barça, it's not enough doing one game well or 2 games well, one bad. I mean, if he really wants to be the number 9, for example, if he plays against Eintracht, he needs to score again, because this is not being the number 9 of Betis. Number 9 of Barça, as Suarez, Eto'o, and others have showed, is every 3 days. Each 3 days, boom, boom, boom. So,
and he knows that. He said it himself after the game. They asked him about his goals and how many he'd scored this season, and he was like, I already knew I could do this. In his classic, he's a bit. Do you know what he's like? Do you know what he reminds me of? Actually, is like a worse quality Luis Suarez. In that now he's playing in the box. Now he's playing as this number 9. He does have the sort of the problems that Suarez had. It also wasn't great on touching the ball. Had bad control sometimes. Did occasionally bad things, but scored so many goals that it made up for it. That's what Ferran can aspire to, is to being like Suarez in that sense. And he has exactly the same as Jordi Alba, same as Suarez, chip on his shoulder about nobody's given me anything. No, blah, blah, blah. I need to fight for this. I need to do this. No one believes in me. I believe in myself. No one else believes in me. That kind of attitude.
Yeah. See, no, this is true. The mentality. Yeah, I can accept the example with the bad version of Luis Suarez. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what he was saying after the game. He was like, I knew I could do this. I knew I could do it. No one else knew this, basically. But at Barca, that's what you have to do. You have to score every game. You have to do this every game. So he said we're going to get many more goals. So let's see if he does.
Let's see. But well, I'm also happy to see that in the Discord, I have people that defended Ferran, defended the Sharks. He's the reality. So we will keep going. And now our podcast will be divided between all those that understand about football, Ferran Shark fans, and your supporters. That supporters of Rik Sharma, to all those that have encouraged you to stay strong, to not apologize. So now we have 50-50, and let's see. Football will speak.
It's Sharkweek. That's the thing that they do that in the US on some geography channel or something. Sharkweek. This is Sharkweek.
No. In the following days, I will write down a list in the Discord. Fan of Ferran and hater of Ferran, and all our listeners, they will have to list their name in one side or the other, because then at the end of the season, like in the Nazis time, Schlinder list, we will read it at the end of the season. Do you know what is la lista de Schlinder?
Schindler's List, yeah.
Yeah, the Schlinder list. So at the end of the season, we will read the names. Ansu Bahala, Chris Milligan. It's easy. The only doubt I have now is where is Samuel Marsden? In the list of Ferran or in the list against Ferran?
No,
This is it's not clear yet for me.
the problem is I think there are a lot of people, which I would include myself in, as not so strongly divided one way or the other. More just seeing what happens and criticizing when criticism needs to be given and praising when praise needs to be given. And for me, I think a lot of people are like that. If Ferran does what he's doing in against Betis, against Atletico, against Athletic Club when he scored these goals.
You mean that I don't criticize him or I need to criticize him?
Yeah, I don't think you see. I think that's the issue. I think our thoughts on Ferran are not too divided, but you do look at Ferran with rose-tinted or shark-tinted glasses.
Okay. Let's see.
That's the issue, I think. But more or less, you haven't said he should be first choice starter. Obviously, this week after his goals, he should be. But you haven't said that he deserves to be the first choice. I don't think that either, but I do think he could be if he keeps up his form, basically, and improves on some other areas.
Bueno,
let's see.
I
can ask Sam.
Vamos a ver. But,
I'll ask Sam on the rest of the pod which side of the list he would be on if he was on this list.
Okay, let's see. But by the way, and for the moment, he's doing great, and I hope he will be started against Eintracht. And I know, of course, I'm ready that in the moment that Ferran misses a clear chance, I will delete Discord from my mobile. This is obvious, for sure. Of course, automatically, if he misses a clear chance, Discord, delete app.
Yeah. All right. That is all for today with you. I'll be back with Sam momentaneously.
Okay, ciao.
There we go. Then there was a good chunk of Rik and Toni talking about Ferran. Some nice conclusions there, Rik. Any questions for me?
I guess I should bring up what Toni was saying about where you stand on the Shark. It doesn't have to be just this game, just in general, I suppose. I I imagined you'd be in more or less the same camp as me, except for some reason Tony's created a kind of, well, not a straw man argument out of it, but like because he's so pro Shark, any stance that isn't massively pro Shark seems to be a Shark hater in his eyes. And I said you'd be on that side of the argument.
It is confusing because aesthetically sometimes he's not pleasing on the eye, misses big chances, has bad touches. But you certainly can't argue with the stats. Not just this year. I mean, there were signs that the stats were improving last year. I think he deserves to be given sort of confidence. How many times do you think he's been given that run through the middle? That's his position now, isn't it? 9. That's sort of settled. Before it was a little bit. Is he best from the left, from the right, through the middle? I know there was a time a couple of years ago, it was around the time when he played a game against Cadiz really well on the right wing, when he always said it, obviously it's where he came through playing, that his position was a right wing. I think everyone around the coaching staff and Ferran would now tell you he's, that central player. I don't know, he's a little bit, I don't know, he's not quite, he needs to convince me that he's a top level player that can do that for Barca as the number 9 week after week, but he probably deserves a run in that position. I don't understand quite why Toni...
In Tony's eyes, that makes you a Shark hater.
In Tony's eyes, maybe I'm a Shark hater. I don't understand why Toni is so sort of pro-Shark in sort of the... I mean, maybe I'm wrong, because the stats are there to see this year in terms of goals and whatnot. But yeah, I'm probably more aligned... Obviously, it's exaggerated your point of view, but I'm probably more aligned with that point of view than Tony's point of view. Yeah,
I mean, as I said with Toni, as people will just listen to, it comes down to so much of what Ferran has done when he plays, other than his goals, for me is unsatisfactory. And actually, in this game against Betis, he did pretty well at most of the other aspects of play. And if he always was this consistent, apart from in terms of his goal scoring, I think that Ferran would be a lot more appreciated. But there's just so many moments when you watch him where he costs Barca that I think it's trouble to have him as a starter in the team.
Well, that's a lot of Ferran for today. Let's rewind back to the start of the game. And Barcelona actually made a poor start in Seville. They found themselves 1-0 down after 6 minutes. Antony scoring after being played onside by Jules Koundé. But as discussed, the reaction was imminent. Quick goals from Ferran Torres in the 11th and 13th minutes. The first set up by Koundé, the second by Roony, who started on the right. He scored Barca's third goal, and Ferran, with a deflected effort, completed his hat-trick in the 40th minute, making it 4-1 to Barca at half-time. It was 5-1 just before the hour mark, a handball from Marc Mark Bartra, I was going to say Mark Bernal, from Marcus Rashford shot, handing Lamine Yamal the chance to score from the penalty spot. Lamine Yamal playing in a number 10 role with Roony out on the right. And then there were some late goals from Betis once Barca had made some changes, perhaps taken their foot off the gas a little bit. Diego Llorente and Cucho Hernandez from the penalty spot in the 90th minute after a Jules Koundé foul. Rik, I was going to ask you about, well, I wasn't going to come straight on to the late goals, but obviously we discussed about Hansi Flick's reaction to being asked about them, because obviously there was some negativity. So I think best to hear from Hansi on that.
Go on. If you want to think or see the negative thing, you can do it. Okay, I'm not today, because I'm really proud about my team. They fight 90 minutes, and of course it's also a fantastic team from Betis. They have quality. They have really good players, and we are fighting, and they were exhausted. So at the end, not everyone was by 100%, and this is normal, okay? But I'm happy how they manage everything on the pitch, and this is the way. And today it's positive for me, really positive, and compliment for my players.
Rik, do you agree with Hansi? I mean, do you think it's something that should have been highlighted just quickly, because this is going to be a positive episode? But yeah, obviously, I mean, I kind of think the late goals are a little bit meh. I mean, especially when you see what's happened in La Liga. Like you said, we've been wrong in terms of thinking perhaps Madrid and Barca would have it far too easy this season. There are teams like Betis, like Celta that can trouble you. Barca were 5-1 up. They'd made changes, foot off the gas. Yes, they did concede a couple of late goals, but it wasn't like they conceded in a couple of late goals in a way that they were clinging on or anything like that. Obviously, we know the stats are there. We know the defensive problems and frailties they have. They conceded more goals than anyone else in the top half, 20 now in La Liga. And yes, it is a problem, but I don't think these late goals necessarily were a problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see that point of view. I think Hansi was being overly positivo. I think he was being almost a bit belligerent with how positivo he was being about it. I don't think these goals are a massive talking point, but I do think it's not good to let them in. And it kind of came about because of the many changes he made and lack of concentration. And overall, they're meaningless in this game. There was no way that Betis could fight their way back in. But I think not a great sign in terms of the team's concentration. Why isn't the team concentrating? Why don't they just keep concentrating for the 90 minutes? And in fact, Flick even said during the press conference, he even praised the team over the 90 minutes, deliberately saying over the 90 minutes. And I was like, well, Hansi, that's not true. They're letting 3 goals. You don't let in 3 goals if you're concentrating over the 90 minutes. It's not a massive issue, like we said, but it's just, I think Flick was being a little bit. I mean, his point of view, I suppose, is to try and raise the team's morale after sort of a patchy run of form, despite winning 6 in a row in La Liga. The form hasn't been great, like in the Alaves game we've discussed and so on, in terms of the actual performances. So he's just trying to boost that and keep it going. And I guess I can see why he's doing it. I just don't 100% agree with him on it. Yeah,
I guess that is true. I kind of overlooked. I know Chris P on the Discord is not about this game, but just in general from the Javi slide about good habits, etc. And the best teams do have those good habits and pride themselves on things. Like obviously the clean sheet was gone from the 6th minute, but pride themselves on things like keeping goals out, seeing wins in those last sort of few minutes, not leaking more or whatnot. And I guess that could be part of a concern moving forward, because we do see it quite a bit with Barca.
The biggest concern for me in this game though is an individual, which is, I'd say, a bit rare. I don't think normally you can blame too much on obviously individual goals can cause trouble, but normally when things go wrong it's more systematic than individuals. But Jules Koundé was absolutely atrocious in this game. I know he got the assist for for Ferran's first goal, but in terms of individual blame, I think I have to unlike normal make a point about Koundé in this one, because really bad for the first goal, and then he gave away the penalty late on for Cucho to score. Just a shocking performance, and one of a chain of bad performances over the last few months.
Yeah. Interestingly, on Monday there were reports, I think it's from Helena Condis, that Koundé's spoken to Flick about the possibility of moving back to the middle of defence. We'll see if that's an option that Flick would consider. He's never used him there from the start. I think we've had this conversation before, but he's perhaps used him there in games to not close out games necessarily, but to make changes in the past when he sort of brought Hector Fort on for a centre-back and shifted Koundé into the middle, I think. But as far as I can remember, he's never used him there from the start of a game. Yeah,
I don't think so. Yeah. It's quite infrequent that he's even done the moving as well. I think it's hardly ever been at centre-back.
I guess two interesting things as well, certainly from the starting lineup and both players scoring as well, was the start of Roony on the right. Obviously, it'd been a while since we'd seen him. It was a surprise to see him come into the team, but it allowed Rafinha and Lewandowski to both be rested ahead of Tuesday's game against Frankfurt. Neither of them even needed off the break, and that also meant Lamine Yamal switching to number 10 position. Obviously, he's played through the middle, at academy level. It's something we've spoken about, the possibility of happening a little bit. Thoughts on Roony and Lamine?
Yeah, Roony was good. It was interesting to see him. I wondered if Flick decided to go with this team, obviously not just to rest the players like you mentioned for Frankfurt, because like last season, I mean, obviously the Champions League game was bigger than the Betis game. We saw that last season when they rested half the team to play against young boys at home in the Champions League. So yeah, Flick was. I did expect he would play reserves in this game. I wasn't particularly surprised to see Roony starting and Ferran starting up front. But I wondered if he also chose Roony because, like you mentioned on the last pod, he doesn't like necessarily having Rashford and Lamine on the wings at the same time. And with Roony, he thought maybe he could get a bit more or pressing and energy out of him in a defensive sense than in the past when you've had to have Rashford and Lamine. And yeah, Roony was good. Just showed that he deserves more opportunities, not necessarily in big games or in sort of crunch times, but just more chances going forward, more game time, because more or less with every game he plays, Roony Bartegi, he has improved. I think that's been it's been like a fairly sort of rising diagonal line of improvement with games and performances. So yeah, looking forward to seeing more of him. And Lamine has a 10. I thought he was decent. I don't think he was amazing, but I think he was decent, and it's just potentially the start of maybe a position where he'll play long term. But in this game, he was creative. He was heavily involved with a lot of Barca's attacking. He scored obviously from the penalty spot, a penalty which shouldn't have been a penalty. I don't think anyone in the world really thought that was a penalty. But yeah, overall sort of solid, interesting, but scope for improving as well. And Flick was quite happy with his defensive output in that position.
Yeah, his defensive output in the last 3 games has been higher than any point throughout the season in terms of sort of defensive recoveries. 8 against Alaves, 9 against Atletico Madrid, 7 against Real Betis. He'd only had 7 once before all season. That was back on the first day of the season against Mallorca. I
wonder though if that is coming because certainly not in this game so much, but against Alaves and against Atletico Madrid, I don't think Lamine was particularly great, and in an attacking sense. And I wonder if he's self-adjusting because he's seen, I've given the ball away or I've struggled, I haven't beaten this guy. If he's like, I better do something to sort this out, and working harder defensively because of that.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, but like you say, it was something that Flick highlighted after the game. See how he does. I guess against Frankfurt, he'll be back on the right, Rafinha back in. I guess Fermin was back off the bench. I guess that's the one question against Frankfurt now, isn't it? Who plays as the 10? I mean, it potentially could be Rafinha with Rashford on the left, and whether Lewandowski comes back in for Ferran or whether he plays. I guess there are a few questions to be answered against Frankfurt now, because it will be hard to leave Ferran out as well after his hat-trick.
Yeah, what would you do? Who would you start up front? I mean, me and Tony both said Ferran after the hat-trick.
Yeah, Ferran I would start up front. I would leave Lewandowski on the bench. I would start Rafinha and Lamine, and then the question would probably be between Rashford and Fermin.
Yeah, I think you have a bit more firepower if you have Rashford on the bench and can come on and have an impact in the second half. But it would be interesting to see him go with Rafinha as the 10 as well.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Lewandowski start either, especially as he rested the whole game on Saturday. Right then, I know there's been a glimpse of the ratings, but let's hear the full Rick's ratings from Barcelona's 5-3 win at Real Betis.
I didn't write any ratings because I just had to rate Ferran. I thought that was the only thing we were doing today was giving Ferran 10 out of 10. No, I'm joking. We got the ratings. Joan Garcia 6. Not good to let in 3 goals, but they weren't really his fault, and he was okay coming off his line. He was pretty handy a couple of times with that. Koundé 3 out of 10. That for me is like one of the worst individual performances of the season for Barca. We've already talked about it, so I won't get too deep into it. The rest of the defence 6 out of 10. Cubarsí, Gerard Martin, Balde. Obviously, Balde has picked up like a knock and he went off. I think he's okay though. There's not been any medical reports about Balde, has there? I've not seen.
No,
but
I don't think so.
Just a knock. Eric Garcia 7, another solid outing in the middle of the pitch alongside Pedri 8, Lamine 7 as the 10, pretty good, but room to improve as well. Roony Bartaji 8. Rashford 7, not very good finishing actually. Both Lamine and Rashford missed one-on-ones, which was not good finishing from them. And then, as previously discussed, Ferran Torres 10 out of 10 off the bench. Everyone was okay. Christensen 6, Bernal 7, like decent cameo for him. De Jong, Fermin 6 I gave, but not too many comments on them.
I actually thought Bernal looked quite good from the bits that he did do when he came on. Yeah, it was a step forward. It felt like for him, perhaps boosted after that first 45 minutes he had last week, a little bit more confidence, a few more minutes in the bank. Anyway, we've gone from the league of 3 points, everyone bunched together, to the league of 9 points. Barcelona now with 40 points, 4 clear of Real Madrid, both played 16 games. After Real Madrid were beaten by Celta Vigo, just 1 win in 5 for Xabi Alonso's side. Alonso under a little bit of pressure. Villarreal are third. They were the only other team in the top 4 to win this weekend. They're 35 points, 1 behind Madrid with a game in hand. And Atletico Madrid beaten again. They're down to 31 points. 9 adrift of Barca. If they'd have beaten Barca last week, they'd have gone level with Barca. They've lost to Barca. They've lost to Athletic Club. And now they're 9 adrift.
Yeah. Not hugely shocked by Atletico. Because at the start of the season, I think I don't know about you said. I said they'd be either 4th or 5th, I said. I think 4th probably. But Villarreal, the thing I find funny about them, they've obviously done very well in La Liga. They're doing well, but not very well in Europe. But Marcelino doesn't believe in them either, and he's their coach. At least that's what he's saying publicly. He said the other week, it's barbaric how many points we've got. Like, it's crazy. And this week he was like, it's impossible to keep up this pace. There's no way we're going to be able to keep up this pace. But at least they can't take away the points that we've already got away from us.
No, I think they're normal things to say when teams are overachieving, especially at this stage. Once you get to...
It's exaggerated. It's the word of today, is exaggerated. But he's saying it like it's an absolute joke. It's impossible for him his team to do that. Obviously he's trying to relieve the pressure, but I think normally coaches aren't quite so negative as that about it.
Yeah, well, let's see. Real Madrid really struggling though. They ended with 9 men against Celta Vigo. Ferran Garcia sent off in the 65th minute, I think it was, 2 yellows in a minute, and then Alvaro Carreras in stoppage time, so it wasn't like 9 men for ages, but Celta really sort of... Madrid had chances. Let's not pretend they didn't. Obviously, they're going to have chances at the Bernabeu, but Celta were good, weren't they? Yes,
Celta were good. Radu, who were criticised against Barca, said he played badly against Barca. Had a great game. It was fantastic against Real Madrid. Made some really good saves. It's what I find interesting about the Madrid game is that I think they had the chances. They could easily have won this game, but the way they lost their heads in the second half was... I won't even say remarkable, because we've kind of seen it before, and actually I think it comes from Florentino Perez. Like, because of the way that he and the club act, it actually has a negative influence on the team. We talked about this end of last season, when Madrid sort of threatened to pull out the Copa del Rey final because of the refereeing, blah, blah, blah. Because of this entitlement they have over refereeing and this sort of thing they've created around the comments about referees on their TV channel, it means they can't cope when things don't go their way. They're actually, what was maybe one of their strengths over the past 15, 20 years has actually turned into one of their weaknesses in terms of mentality. I think they're the headless chickens when things start going against them now. And sort of on a zoomed out perspective, there's quite a good article in Marca about this today. A zoomed out perspective on it is that the actual turning point for their season for the negative came in the Clásico, which they won obviously against Barca, but was when Vinicius Junior threw that sort of stroppy hissy fit as he got taken off, and it kind of and they didn't punish him, and it kind of left Xabi Alonso without any power at Madrid. And since then, yesterday it was evident with playing Fede Valverde in midfield, because he doesn't want to play at right back. It meant they had to play Raul Asensio at right back because Carvajal's injured, Trent Alexander-Arnold's injured, and obviously Valverde is the best option there, but they went with Raul Asensio, had a bad game, and because they played Raul Asensio there and wanted to rest Rudiger to play against Haaland against Manchester City in midweek, they ended up with Carreras playing at centre-back and Fran Garcia playing at left-back, and both Carreras and Fran Garcia were sent off. And it's because Alonso bowed down to Fede Valverde and various other ways is playing Bellingham, even though Bellingham has struggled to sort of mesh with the team, and the team struggles to mesh with Bellingham. He keeps playing Bellingham, Vinicius, and Mbappe. Mbappe's been brilliant. The team should be built around him. That's quite obvious. But because he's having to play players that at the start of the season he didn't have to play, when they won 13 out of 14 games in a row, they're struggling.
Yeah, big game against, well,
There's some positive
not such a big game because they're well
fans.
placed in the Champions League, but a big game just in terms of sensations against Manchester City coming up on Wednesday, like you say, at the Bernabeu. Barca in action on Tuesday at home to Frankfurt in the Champions League. We'll be back on Patreon after that game with the reaction to see if Barca can get back to winning ways in Europe after that defeat to Chelsea and the draw in Belgium against Brugge. Also over on Patreon, we're still building the Barca best modern 11, just the striker position to go. There's a couple of Q&As on there from over the weekend before that Real Betis game. So many questions last week that we had to break it down into two. You can find it over on the Patreon, as well as reaction to the Frankfurt game on Wednesday. In the meantime, stay positive.